Good morning. So happy to be here with you guys. It's Wednesday, the first weekly live here from Jesse Johnson Coaching, and I'm just delighted to be here with you guys. I've got my tea, and we're going to dive into some really juicy topics today. There's going to be time for you to do some deep inner reflection, ground into what is working for you and how to leverage that, what is maybe not feeling so aligned and how to shift that. And I'm going to give you some really concrete tips to help you with your sales calls, in particular your cold calls. And then there will be time for Q&A. So I'm really, really excited to have you here. If you're here live, just say hi. Tell me where you're coming in from, where you're watching from. And let me know one thing that you are fantastic at, that you just really want to claim for yourself today. And if you're watching on the replay, same thing. I read all the comments. I go back through and make sure that any questions that you ask get answered. So anything that you share with me, I'm going to see directly. So to start this call, right, the focus of today's call is actually about these tips for cold calls. That's what inspired this topic, because I've got tons of clients who are working on this task, leaning into their discomfort to pick up the phone and call a complete stranger, or call someone that they know that they don't like, they haven't prepped for the call to get into a sales conversation. And the tips that I have about this are going to change not only how you feel about your sales calls, but about not only about what you feel about your cold calls, but any sales calls that you get into. It's going to really help a lot. And before we get into that, I want you to just take a moment to actually find the part of you that knows how good you are at what you do. That's confident, masterful, powerful, and here to serve. Every single one of you has that knowing in you. You just have to remind yourself. Because we've all got insecurity, we've all got doubt, we've all got fear, we've all got worry, and that stuff is like the kryptonite for your confidence. And there's no reason to even pick up the phone or get into a sales conversation if you aren't clear that you have something to offer. So take a moment, and you can even close your eyes if you want, as long as you're not driving. And just feel that kind of gathering of your mastery, the gathering of your confidence. Confidence isn't something that you have to create. It's something that you're born with. You just have to locate it in your body. Breathe life into it. It's a resting. Confidence is a resting into your knowing, a resting into your worth, a resting into your service. For those of you that are using your connection to spirit in some way in your business, it's also a kind of a getting out of the way, like that resting can be like, like this is my chill time where God comes through. This is my play, like lovemaking time with God. This is where we get to play together, right? As opposed to like this, I gotta muscle through it. I gotta make it work. I gotta, beat my head against the wall. That's not true. And even if there were some situation where it was true, that's not the context that is appropriate for this. That energy and this task don't connect. You guys with me? Give me a little amen if this makes sense. So from that place, you can do just about anything. And when it comes to cold calls, part of the reason that I like cold calls as a task, as an exercise, as a skill for entrepreneurs is because it actually demands that you raise the standard on how you show up in your life, because they just don't work. They don't feel good. They're not fun unless you get in alignment. So your job in making cold calls, and this is a practice, right? I teach sales as a spiritual practice, cold calls included. So this is not like get it done and perfect it right now, although you might surprise yourself with how good your next cold call can be, but rather to lean into using cold calls to increase your mastery, to increase how unconditionally loving and generous and confident you are. That no matter what happens in a sales conversation, no matter what that person on the other end of the phone or Zoom or Skype says to you, that you never forget who you are. You never lose that confidence in your power to help, your power to serve, that you never drop your knowing of your own mastery. As you continue to grow, as you continue to improve, as you grow and change. So here are the 3 steps that I think are going to be really helpful to you in specifically using your confidence to make the cold call not just fun for you, but fun for the other person and in service to them and your financial goals, frankly. So the first thing is to understand that no matter who initiated the call, whether you literally picked up the phone and called them or you have some pre-scheduled meeting, doesn't matter. Energetically, the person that you're talking to has called you into their life because they are struggling with something. They have some problem or some dilemma or some obstacle that's slowing them down and they need help. And so they've reached out to you on the energetic level, on the soul level, you could say. They've reached out to you to ask for support. You can kind of logically talk yourself through this in a few different ways. I mean, this is a truth about anyone that you meet, anyone that you're driving next to, that you meet at the Starbucks, that you hire to work with, that you work with in a collegial way, that you take on as a client, that you fall in love with, that you become friends with. Literally every person in your life has invited you in. You wouldn't know each other otherwise. I mean, just think about how many people there are on the planet that you don't know, that you'll never meet, right? You can just kind of feel the truth of what I'm saying. If your logic helps you out, great. If your logic is getting in the way, just let that go. You're only meeting people. You're only interacting with people who you have some soul contract with, some soul agreement. And if you're selling them, if you're calling them on the phone to have a sales conversation, that means that they've called you in for that. They've invited you energetically in for that. Now, does that mean that you just barge in without any consent, without knocking on the door? No, any more than you would at someone's house, right? So just because you understand that you've been invited doesn't give you permission to be an aggressor. That's not the point. It's to help you let go of whatever fear, doubt, and worry you might feel about having the interaction in the first place. Let that go. It's not for you. It's not true. It's not for them either. It just gets in the way for everyone. So when you show up into the interaction feeling welcomed, feeling invited, feeling like you have a purpose for speaking to this person, you will show up in your mastery. You will show up in your confidence. You will show up in your power. You will show up in your generosity. You will show up because you're not busy focused on you. If you are focused on you and protecting your ego and feeling like afraid of rejection and not sure what's going to happen, you can't help them because you're not paying attention to them. Just like letting that stand for a minute. This is really important. This is also why I love teaching cold calls, because when you practice cold calls, you will see just how focused on yourself you are. And that's not a bad thing. Don't make that wrong, but it's just not relevant. You are not the interesting party in the conversation. You're interested in them. What is it that they're struggling with? What is it that they want in their life? What is it that they're banging their head against the wall about? Your job is to be curious, be interested, and you can't do that if you're insecure. You can't do that if you're focused on yourself. You can't do that if you're thinking about the future and whether or not they're going to say yes or hang up on you. Okay? So you've got to show up in your fullness. They called you, whether it's literally or just energetically, and you have something that they want. You have something that will help them. So that's the first tool. It's fun, right? The second tool that I want to offer you is to use this future version of yourself, which I've talked about with you guys and a lot of people teach. This is because it's good. Your future self is really good at what they do. So call on your future self. Just do this right now. And again, if it helps you to close your eyes, you can do that. See the future version of yourself who is doing and living and being and having all that you currently want but haven't yet experienced. They're making the money you want. They're in the relationship that you want. They're living in the house that you want. They have the clients you want. They are as visible as you want to be. They're having the impact you want. They're living your dream. And notice how far away from you they feel. Sometimes our future selves feel like planets away, solar systems away. See if you can bring your future self right in front of you. And then step into them. Just literally become that future self. Live with their confidence. Speak with their truth. Walk through the world with their followers. This is not an ego trip. This is actually a way of pacifying the ego. So it's not so clamory, not so needy. See yourself as all that you see for yourself. And now imagine how that version of you does cold calls. How do they call people out of the blue? How do they call a stranger? Energetically, emotionally, physically. How do they feel? What do they do? Are they having fun? Are they confident? Are they successful? Are they impressive to the person that they call? What's their impact? Just see it, feel it, know it in yourself. Whatever it is that you see when you do that or feel or experience, that's how you need to do cold calls right now. And again, this is true for any kind of sales, not just cold. So your future self is a guide for you, always. This is not a one-off activity. You can always use your future self to come back to the truth of who you are, because you are that future self. You couldn't imagine any of the things that you just felt or imagined when you connected to your future self if that wasn't actually a part of who you are. If that wasn't already inside you. This is, it's the reason that cliche is the cliche that it is, because it's true. The seed of the sequoia holds the hugeness of the sequoia tree. They're non-different. They're just at different stages of their development. But the sequoia seed, like if you think about it in nature, it's not like biting its nails, like, I don't know if I'm good enough because I'm not tall yet. I'm just a seed, right? It's just doing its thing, just resting, rooting into the earth, reaching into the sky. Simple. Same thing with animals, right? The dolphins out there in the Pacific Ocean, the whales, the crabs, the little guys that dig into the earth, the sand dwellers. They're not worried about what they haven't yet experienced. They're not worried about becoming. They're not worried about growing older. They're not worried about growing up. So the future self exercise is kind of a mindset hack to get you free of the part of you that is afraid that you're not already there, or doubt, like keeping yourself separate because of what you currently see. I mean, this This is one of the biggest things that slows people down, is that they look at their current environment, their current experience, their current body, their current results, and they use that to limit what they believe to be possible for themselves. This is law of attraction 101, right? So the thoughts you think determine what you create in your life. So think the thoughts of your future self. Think the thoughts of that version of you that is masterful, even on cold calls. And then show up in the cold call that way. It's really that simple. You might have to come back to it over and over and over again. It's not like this is a one and done and then you're just enlightened, right? That's why it's practice. And not the kind of practice makes perfect. That's not really what I mean, but practice like a spiritual practice, like a meditation practice, right? People that meditate regularly plan to do so for the rest of their lives. They're not really looking for some specific result. They meditate every day because the practice of meditation is transformational for them. There's always more. There's always more growth. So approach your cold calls this way also. You ready for the third one? The third step is to imagine what it would look like for it to be easy. And then do it that way. And this is it's similar to the future self exercise, but slightly different because ease is an element. It's like it eludes most people. We're so trained in our culture, in our middle class mindset, to believe that it is our hard work, our martyrdom, our suffering and struggle that makes us worthy or good. And whether you've even had that conscious thought or not doesn't really matter. It's like it's embedded in society. That's why stress is real. So it's worth giving explicit energy to dismantling that program and giving yourself a new story. What would it look like for this to be easy? What would it look like for it to be easy for me to pick up the phone? What would it look like for it to be easy to talk to a stranger, invite them into a conversation about working together, and have them say an enthusiastic yes? What if that whole process was easy? What if it was easy to hear no? What if it was easy to keep going? What if it was easy to be resilient? What if it was easy to be confident? What if it was easy to use the cold calls to completely transform my results in life overnight? What if it was easy? What if it was easy? What if it was easy? And then whatever it is that you see or feel or experience when you try that story on becomes your new formula, becomes your new way of showing up. So, because it is meant to be easy. And in fact, the ease is often what's so uncomfortable. Feel into that for a minute. That might not make sense to you, so I just want to let that stand for a minute. Life growth is not meant to be comfortable. It will never be comfortable. But comfort and ease are two different things. They often get conflated in our world also, because we're trained to work so hard, you know? So we think that the only time that we can really be comfortable is when we're off, when we're not working, when we're on vacation, when we're at home at night or on the weekends or vacationing or retiring. And that's just gotta shift, because typically those are not growthful periods. And we don't want to set ourselves up to make growth always hard. I guarantee there are going to be times when you make it hard. That's normal. I do it too. But growth in and of itself is our nature. It is the easiest thing for us to do. And so it's real important to let yourself find ease in that growth. And I think I'm doing this thing with my arms because I just feel trees when I think about this kind of growth, right? Like that the branches are extending into new space. They're literally going where they've never gone before. They could get cut, they could get eaten, they could get nipped, they could grow into a wall and not realize it. They don't have eyes, right? There's like danger and risk in that. And so it's uncomfortable to grow. It's uncomfortable to have new skin on your branches when those little new like buds or twigs or whatever, the branches are reaching into the sky. That's uncomfortable, stretchy, but it's not hard because it's what they're meant to do. Trees are meant to grow, and so are we. So let's just recap 3 steps, and then we're going to open up space for some questions if any are coming through. So first, they called you and you've got what they want. Second, imagine the future version of you doing cold calls and do it that way. Third, imagine what it would look like for cold calls to be easy and do it that way. And the truth is that these 3 principles are relevant for any sales conversation, and frankly, they're relevant for any fulfillment conversation as well. Because what you're doing when you sell, it's the same material, it's the same practice, it's the same way of showing up. You showing up in your excellence should look this free, this generous, this confident, this easy, this empowered all the time. And cold calls, ironically, are a way to find that consistency, to get that unconditional. People comment regularly to me. This has happened like 5 times just this week, how quickly and how successfully I went from starting my business to, I mean, like the 7-figure mark is just a piece of it, but to have a successful coaching business, to have hit 7 figures and maintain that, to be helping people at the level that I'm helping as quickly as I did has been really shocking for a lot of people to see. It is not the norm. And this instruction that I'm giving you today is how I did it. And I would not have chosen to do this. When I say that, I wouldn't have come up with this idea on my own. Okay, I needed my coaches to tell me, Jesse, you need to call everyone you know and tell them what you're doing. Here's how to have a sales conversation. You ask them what they want. You find out why they're not getting it. You ask them what's going to happen if they don't change. That's it. It's so simple. It's so simple. In order to have that conversation well, however, I had to get way freer than I was around the way I felt in relationship. And these are the biggest tools that helped me. And they're the biggest tools that will help you. So I'm just super, super excited to be with you. Again, this is going to be our weekly routine. Weekly, we will be on here talking about money, sales, spirituality, giving you guys time to learn, ground into your confidence and mastery, and come out the other side at getting the answers to any questions that you've got. So if you have any questions now, put them in the chat. And those of you that are watching the replay, any questions that come up, write them in there and I will respond as soon as I see them. Generally within 24 hours. So if something comes up, any questions about what I've taught or any other questions about sales or cold calls, just let me know. Let's just close again with a reminder of how powerful you are, how tremendous you are, how beautiful you are, how generous you are, how right you are for this world. You are so right for this world with all your uniqueness, all the things that make you unusual, you, all the things that you know, and all the things you haven't figured out yet. All of that is so good for this planet. Feel you're welcome here in this body, here in this life. And as you feel your own welcome, let it expand out to everyone that you meet, that you see, that you touch, that you love. Just by your presence, just by your own knowing of how much you belong here, let your very breath communicate the welcome and belonging to those around you. You know who you are, you know what you are, you know how you serve. And there's always more growth. So whatever is still mysterious to you, trust, you know everything you need to know. And everything that you don't know yet is coming in perfect time. That'll be a topic very soon, a little divine timing exploration. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, let us know what's helping. Let me know what questions you have, and we'll see you next week.